Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me on Berets, and today we're taking a look at Rivera, one of the newer units to come to Brave Exvius. I say that because pretty soon here, JP is going to have its live stream tonight, and for anybody who's been waiting the entire month, like me basically, this will be the live stream where we will finally get some more information about CG Ishtola. For anybody who has been following this entire month on the JP side, people have been getting tickets, and the 29th is when you will be able to start using those tickets to get Ishtola. So that is going to be happening in the live stream, but for anybody else who is wondering maybe about War of the Visions, I might expect War of the Visions to pop in on the JP live stream tonight. One, we know that it is launching earlier in Japan, and it's kind of already been said that it will be in August or September and later in Global. So given that it is a Gummy project, I could see Gummy very much using the JP Brave Exvius live stream to maybe start rounding up some interest about War of the Visions, as the preload numbers are pretty good, but as we know, preloads don't always necessarily mean, or pre-registrations, I mean, don't necessarily mean success for a game, and yeah, maybe tying it with Alum's not the best idea. But it should be interesting to see what is on the live stream tonight. I have already made my prediction and everything. But for you global people, we are here to talk about Rivera. And for anybody who is wondering why I'm still making these videos, I said I was quitting in August. Apparently, most of you just can't listen very well. Interesting, but regardless, let's talk about Rivera, because if there's something I love about Final Fantasy, it is always the music. So the idea of a Conductor support unit is pretty cool to me. She also has some healing. It's a she, right? A talented conductor who travels all over the world, Rivera was always in search of new sounds she had never heard before. Confirmed. Hoping to add them to her symphonies, rumor has it she wrote hundreds of very creative symphonies during her lifetime. It's quite the boasting profile. Anyway, talking about her TMR, because I did not do a video about this earlier in the week, mainly because I was just too busy with actual real life. MP plus 200% on a harp, as well as 20 magic and 90 spirit. That also gives a sonorous hope, which is 3% MP recovery per turn, and improvised serenade casted. Formal suit is her super TMR, 28 defense, 35 magic, 74 spirit, with 30% light and dark resistance. Pretty good, pretty nice all around, and it comes with prestige, which decreases her MP cost by 30%, or whoever's by 30%. Good for a healer, good for a whole bunch of units that have high MP costs that you're just waiting to kind of get lower. Also, there's a lot of light coming in, so I really am in the shadows today. Looking at her stats, HP is good, MP is fine, probably more fine with Super TMR. Her defense isn't anything great, which is kind of to be expected. Attack is straight garbage. Magic is low, and Spirit is her highest stat. But what's kind of bugs me is that her Spirit only gets an extra 40 points put in. Given that you probably want this girl to be pretty survivable, kind of a little bit disappointing to not see just higher. Equipment-wise, good enough. Obviously, a unit like this is not going to be equipping heavy armor, but she has a fairly good equipment selection. Looking at her limit burst, maxed out 45 crystal cost, which is a little high. Increase limit burst damage by 50% for 1 turn to all allies. Increase magic and attack 170% for 3 turns to all allies. MP refresh of 234 split over 3 turns. And a increase of limit burst gauge of 7 to 12 for all allies. Strong support, and if there's one thing that is true, limit bursts are a thing that they want to be strong in this game. So, yeah, I mean, as it was proven with Chair Rain, upping a unit's limit burst damage, especially a very solid chain limit burst with a high modifier, is pretty impressive in this game. So to have a unit that gives limit burst damage, most of the limit burst damage abilities do not stack to my knowledge. And either way, that is just kind of, I mean, like, really here, I think this is a big offensive push on her limit burst, and one that is not undervalued. Limit bursts are always going to be strong, given that CG limit bursts are starting, and they have been traditionally very strong on JP side. Some of the units into the feature will have this themselves, but the attack boost is not unwarranted, and the fact that she charges limit burst is pretty good too. Really depends how fast you can charge the limit burst. She has magic spells like Libra, Refresh, Elytra, which is decreased light resistance. Interesting. Holy Re-Raise, Shellgun, Protecta, which is all a pretty good range of spells to have. Looking at her passives, you know, of course, you know, some status immunities, some defense and spirit up. I know that she is charm immune. She recovers naturally 5% MP per turn. Autocast Synchronized Rhythm, which is recover 10 MP to all allies and increase a dark resistance 30% for 1 turn to all allies. So kind of a nice little 30% dark resistance buff. Swift Director, decreased chance to be targeted by 50%. Obviously you don't want her to get hit because so far it doesn't seem like she's very good defensive orientatively. She also has some good elemental resistance, and with her DMR or Super DMR equipped, if her HP drops too low, she will get a large amount of elemental resistance, 50%. And I do believe that is kind of glitched, if I remember seeing the post correctly on Reddit. It's okay, people can get angry in the comments, I know they need that. It's nice to have that kind of emergency, and elemental resistance is kind of a cool idea for emergency boosting, just because it could push you into a zone where you take no damage, so that's kind of cool. And she has a chance to ignore a fatal attack when her HP is above 60%, 1 time. Again, good for her to basically not take a fatal hit and die and then continue buffing the party the following turns. Charming Conductor enables skill for 1 turn Encore, which is basically triple casting of her abilities. Nice enough. And looking at her abilities, I mean, they are a range of healing abilities and buffs. She has some way to immune elements on multiple characters at a given time. She also has ways of... she has 3 chaining families, I do believe. What were they? Absolute Zero, Bolt, Striking, and Disorder. Because she does have that elemental buff gifting ability to her, especially in her 7-star form. In the Limelight, 4-turn cooldown available turn 1. Light element for 1 turn, but could mean for a strong multi-chaining turn. Also decreased light resistance 100% for 3 turns to all allies. Super nice. She also has an AoE revive, I should say. 5-turn cooldown available turn 1, cures all breaks to the caster, 20% damage mitigation for 3 turns, and enables Encore. She also has Extend Tension, which gives 170% buff for 3 turns to all allies that can't be dispelled. That's always valuable with Encore for 2 turns, so she has a fair good amount of ways of getting triple casting even after. Although 5-turn cooldown available turn 1, going to be some downtime, and her rotation, I would imagine, is a little confusing given that she has a ton of abilities, but... And Raise the Tempo is a always available 15% or ability that gives a 15% limit burst damage gauge buff, or damage buff to 1 ally. Increase limit burst gauge fill rate of 200% for 3 turns. If used after Reverberation, is actually a 25% buff to limit burst damage and a 250% fill rate. But here's the thing I want to talk about. Really, this has all been building up to this one moment to talk about the fact that Rivera is kind of the last great interesting way to diversify a unit's kit in Brave Exvius. Brave Exvius is a game that is fundamentally about chaining, always. Just the idea that chaining damage is the primary way to do most of the damage in the game, with chain capping being the way to boost it, kind of thing. But other than that, there isn't really a amazing option, and we've seen a lot of ways of doing it. We've seen based on physical, or the attack stat, the defense stat, the magic stat, the spirit stat, and now with Rivera we are seeing the MP stat. Well, Rivera being an MP focused unit is kind of nice for anybody who has not finished the MP parameter challenge by this point. Rivera should be able to, basically with some decent equipment, be able to get that fairly easy. But the MP, first of all, I've checked it out and asked around a little bit, and it seems to be that the MP scaling on Rivera is not that interesting. Even with a high amount of MP, its damage is pretty darn lacking. It's less interesting. More, it's just this idea of getting more value out of your buffing skills, as well as doing something else to support or heal the party at a time. And to that extent, I do like Rivera, because not only is she music themed, and I really love music, but it's really cool to see a unit that does kind of do something a little bit different, but this is getting to the end of what we can do. How long until we see a tank with HP scaling, and then we've literally used every stat? But it's still just using a stat in the game to calculate damage, slightly differently in a chain style. So it is interesting, if nothing else. It definitely made Rivera a bigger note than anything else on the radar. Otherwise, it would have just been like, oh, it's another support unit. She does have some interesting stuff to her. She does have a good TMR, although mainly for herself, and a very nice super TMR for a lot of units. Her kit itself, I would say overall, is pretty nicely built, if not for the rotation maybe being a tiny bit confusing. She seems like a really good support, and where I would put her against someone like Elfim is probably still the top. The lack of, or the amount of units that are getting undispellable abilities is good, but Elfim, I feel like, still has maybe the more complete, maybe just the more standard, easy to version. But yeah, Rivera does also come on a pretty cheap step up, where it's only 12k Lapis and you're guaranteed one at the end. Should be USable after, and is a 5% Rainbow Writ. Honestly, I would say that you could do a heck of a lot worse than support, especially if you've been missing some of the newer support units, or you don't have Elfim for the future. Then this is probably a really great unit. But either way, fairly more relaxed week, probably because, the previous banner with Morgana and Elena was just a lot bigger. But that's basically the global news and everything like that. And tonight we'll see what the JP news has on the live stream. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.